早晨。
Good morning. Good morning, members. Shall we invite the administration into the conference room? We have a technical quorum and it is about time to make a start. Just a reminder that we'll end the meeting at 10:50. Also a reminder that since the court is still handling the judicial review regarding the oath-taking under Rules of Procedure 4212, members are not supposed to make reference to cases pending in court in a way that the chairman considered to be prejudicing that case. So these special House Committee members should not dwell on the court case that is still pending. If members wish to put questions, please press the button, and I will have regard to the sequence of members pressing the button and members' political affiliation and the number of times that members have previously put questions in calling on members to speak. And members, please make it brief when you take the floor, and you'll be restricted 5 minutes to including the question and answers. By the time the 5 minutes are up, I will hold the member and also the government official who is speaking. As per usual practice, the meeting, there will be a verbatim record for the meeting. I'd like to welcome the CS, the SJ, SCMA, and also Senior Assistant Solicitor General to this meeting. I understand that the CS, the SJ, and the SCMA will not be making any introductory remarks, so I invite members to speak straight away. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Madam Chair, the BPA, sorry, Dr. Lo, and Mr. To, point of order. There are many members who would like to put questions. Of course, it would be good to fit in as many members as possible. If we can have more members taking the floor, perhaps we can restrict the time to 4 minutes or 3 minutes. By the time we press the button, I don't know where I am on the queue. I don't mind 4 minutes, all right? Previously, we usually keep 5 minutes. Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, you object? Yes, Madam Chair, I object to this. This is a complicated subject. 5 minutes will not be sufficient. All right. Shall we stick to the usual practice? Mr. or Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Madam Chair, thank you. Madam Chair, the BPA supports the interpretation of Article 104 of the Basic Law by the MPCSC. The interpretation makes it clear that for those who do not take the oath in a solemn and sincere manner, they will lose their qualification, they will lose their right to take office. Under Section 21 of the Oaths and Declaration Ordinance, it says that any person who declines or neglects to take an oath duly requested which he is required to take by this part shall A, if he has already entered on his office, vacate it, and B, if he has not entered on his office, be disqualified from entering on it. The interpretation is in line with the mainstream views in Hong Kong, because if you're not upholding the basic law and swear allegiance to the SAR of the PRC in a sincere manner, then you're not qualified to take up a seat here in this council. I'd like to take this opportunity to put a question to the administration. In the interpretation, an important element is that number 3, an oath taker has to swear the oath sincerely, and if he breaches the oath, he has to bear legal responsibility. In the process of oath taking, even if the oath has been validated, if someone were to breach the oath in relation to upholding the basic law and swearing allegiance to the SAR of the PRC, if someone were to be in breach of these elements in the oath, I'm sure that the mainstream opinion in Hong Kong is that this is something that the legislator has to abide by. In future, if someone were to be in breach of these elements in the oath, what administrative measures will be taken by the administration. And in elections, if someone has to, I mean, what's the take on the candidates who are running for election? CS. Right before I call upon the SJ to answer this legal question, I'd like to say that yesterday I wrote to the President of the Council. I understand that in the community and in the Council here, there are certain people who raised a question regarding members some members have really taken the oath in a valid manner. Now, the SAR government is scrutinizing the interpretation of the NPCSC regarding members' oath. We will try to respond to members' questions as much as possible. We will reserve the right in this regard. SJ. I'm sure members would agree that an oath is a solemn promise. Under the legal framework, I think there are two aspects in which we see whether a member should be held responsible. Article 79(7) of the Basic Law makes it clear that if there are SJ, there are two aspects basically. Article 79 of the Basic Law makes it very clear that in the following circumstances, the President of the Council can declare the seats vacant. Number 7 refers to the breach of oath. And there are other legislation that would be able to deal with this. We have the election ordinance, 103, Article 1, Section 103 regarding the perjury. We'll look at the situation on their merits. Mr. Ip Kin Yuen. I think it should be Mr. Lam Cheuk Ting. Yes. Doesn't matter, Madam Chair. I'd like to put this to the SJ and also the CS. Are you saying that the administration is asking Andrew Leung as President of the Council to declare the oaths of certain members invalid and then strip them of the office? CS, we haven't done anything like that. Are you going to do so? As I said, the government's position is we are scrutinizing the implications arising out of the interpretation, so we're not commenting on this for the time being. As regards the action, the lawful action to be taken by the Legal Commission, it is within the prerogative of the Council. Mr. Lam, there are many members who are returned here by hundreds of thousands of voters. They're taking up office here during the election period, they expressed the political stance. Like myself, I've been calling for Siwa Leung to step down. I've been seeking to fight corruption. If you say that a certain oath is incomplete or insincere or not solemn enough, and strip people off their seat, then it would be going against the mandate that they will have. It is also an attempt to trample upon the legislature. If I may put this to the SJ, now you said before that within the Hong Kong legal system we can resolve this oath-taking saga. Have you changed your attitude as of now? SJ, I think I have to make it clear that when a member is elected, he or she gets the mandate of the electorate, but we have to bear in mind that each member in becoming a legislative member will have to abide by the relevant legislation. This includes Legislative Ordinance Section 40. By the time someone stands for office, he has to sign a declaration to say that he upholds the basic law and bear allegiance to the SAR. It's not a case of the executive taking any measures to strip members of their right or to disqualify them. I don't think I can subscribe to your view there. As regards to Mr. Lam's second question, I've answered that many times. I've not changed my attitude. You haven't changed your attitude. Do you not agree that the NPCSC should not deal with the oath-taking controversy by interpreting the basic law? As I said on Monday when I met the media, the NPCSC has the power to interpret the basic law. Under what circumstances would the power be invoked? There are legal considerations, there are other considerations. This subject is controversial, and it is not surprising. I'm not talking about other controversy. I'm talking, SJ, about your own judgment in this oath-taking controversy. Do you think that the courts in Hong Kong would be able to resolve it without having to resort to interpretation? I've answered your question already, but I'd like to say that the interpretation has been undertaken. And as I said, I hope that you would look at this in a positive and sensible manner. And you have to bear in mind that in the case of interpretation, it is a controversial issue, and it is understandable that we have diverse opinions. So I don't think we should dwell on any particular aspect. Mr. Lam, please. Are you done, SJ? I don't have very much time. You have to make it short, SJ, please. Fine, I can make it short, but I have to make it clear, this particular issue. My final question, SJ. In the past fortnight, have you ever expressed to the central authorities your intention to resign? SJ, in the whole process, I'm asking a fact. Mr. Lam, please, SJ. We have reflected our views to the central authorities. Mr. Ip Kin Yuen, Madam Chair, interpretation of the basic law deals a blow to our system. It is very, very clear. Not only is it a blow to the judicial independence, it is also a blow to the stability of the council. Now, we have members returned here by the electorate. We get a mandate to come here. We have really a huge mandate. Members are taking their seat here, and their eligibility is called into question. We have the oath-taking procedure that has been serving us well over the years, and this will be affected by the interpretation, and this interpretation is casting a shadow on people's oaths. Like Mr. Lam said, there are some members who inserted certain words in before and after the oath. Nobody cast any doubt on this practice. And the CS said just now that they reserve the right to look at the situation. There may be follow-up actions. Now, if I may put a question to the CS here on this particular question, if you do reserve this right, as of now, do you have any criteria leading to a certain action, and what is the scope going to be like, or do you have no scope at all, and all members will be scrutinized, or do you have any particular criteria and the scope that you have in mind? Can you tell us your plan as of now, please?
CS4A, Madam Chair, we have got 2 secretaries of departments here, so if you would like to name a particular official, please be clear. I, in fact, referred to you. Of course, if you talk about legal issues, I would like to defer to the SJ. But I find it strange to hear from Mr. Yip that the stability of the legislature is to be affected by the interpretation. Well, since the 12th of October, the chaos created in the chamber at the electrical meeting has been with us for a month, and so far you have not been able to operate normally. I think the people of Hong Kong know very well who is to be blamed. Mr. Yun, as to the statutory requirement of taking an oath, that has been governed by the relevant laws, just like other actions regulated by our law. As to whether we want to take any action by the judicial channel or under the law, first of all, we need to look at the content of the relevant laws. Second, evidence that we have gathered. In other words, for us to deal with the oath-taking issue, we need to and we will follow this usual practice. That is, we take into account the law and we will consider the evidence. And in fact, this is indeed what we have been doing when we deal with any legal issue and decide on whether any legal action will be taken. That has always been our principle. It won't be because of the controversial nature of this issue, and then we depart from our usual practice. Chair, if I may follow up on what the SJ and the CS have said in relation to the issue of stability. I don't think they have answered my questions. Well, currently, some members, and many of them, have acted in such a way that is not unlike what we have done in the past. And according to our usual practice in Hong Kong, we would have been able to deal with the matter ourselves adequately. Now that we have got the interpretation by the NPCSC, and we are told that there will be re-examination. In other words, a new element has been included. I'm not talking about what took place at a few electrical meetings. I'm talking about whether our qualifications will be challenged and whether we will be disqualified. And this may very well arise from an administrative decision. Now, that power has been given to the executive, and the executive will be re-examining the issue and try to disqualify and may disqualify electrical members. Can the 2 officials give an answer? Before we consider whether a new element has arisen, well, I think we need to understand that new circumstances have arisen in relation to the enforcement of or implementation of the Basic Law. We have had 6 general elections, but never before have we seen anybody advocating independence and coming to the electrical, hoping to do something that would harm the nation. Mr. Leung Chi-Chang. Madam Chair, the interpretation by the NPCSC has clarified the requirements under Basic Law, Article 104. Those public officers, when taking the oath, have to uphold the Basic Law and pledge allegiance to the Hong Kong SAR. In the past, we thought, and there was a misunderstanding, that we could do something else in addition to reading out the oath. So some people have used this platform to advocate their ideas of Hong Kong independence. And as a result, we have got this interpretation of the article of the Basic Law. Therefore, I think that the interpretation is right, and we can stop people from using the platform of LegCo to advocate their ideas. It is a timely act. The DAB supports the interpretation by the NPCSC. Now my question for the Secretary. Now, Mr. Li Fei has said that the person administering the oath has the duty to represent the Special Administrative Region and is accountable to the CPG. Now, I see that if the Secretary General, Mr. Li Fei has said that the oath administrator has also got a very important duty. There have been calls for the Chief Executive to administer the oath for LegCo members. What is the view of the administration? Is there a need to amend the law? Who will take the question? SJ. Madam Chair, under the Oaths and Declarations Ordinance, well, in fact, we know who is to administer the oath. I've noted Mr. Li Fei's idea, but as the lawmakers, as the CS has said, we're still studying the content of the interpretation to see whether there is a need for other follow-up action. As of now, in relation to this aspect, we haven't got any, we haven't decided on the matter. Let me take this opportunity to clarify one other point. Mr. Yip Kin Yun has said that the executive has taken away the qualification of LegCo members. I think both in terms of the facts and at law, this is wrong. In fact, since the interpretation has taken place as to whether any oath-taking conduct is violating the law, ultimately it is a question to be decided by the court. I emphasize once again, it isn't a matter of the executive disqualifying any member. Secretary, a question about Article 104. There is the requirements for public officers taking office. Other than applying it to assuming office, it also applies to the case of running for the running in an election. In fact, you have also got a confirmation form for candidates to sign. Now, the CE's election will take place in March next year. Are you going to examine the Chief Executive Election Ordinance to make sure that it is in line with the interpretation by the NPCSC and we can effectively stop candidates from taking part if they advocate independence for Hong Kong? So are you going to amend the law, and are you going to include some sort of requirements of declaration? Mr. Raymond Tan. Well, for the CE election ordinance, there is already this requirement that is at the time of putting in your nomination form, you need to make a declaration covering the main content of Article 104 of the Basic Law. Moreover, for the EAC to conduct the election in accordance with the law next year, well, earlier on, a guideline has already been issued, and in fact, the EAC has mentioned that a candidate for the post of CE at the time of submitting the nomination form will be required by the returning officer to fill out a confirmation form. Would it be like in the case of the LC, that is, if somebody has been found to have advocated for independence of Hong Kong, who will be barred from running for the post, the returning officer will be responsible for enforcing the law. According to the CEO, it will mean a High Court judge. Mr. Elvin Yeung. Thank you, Madam Chair. As Mr. Leung Ji-cheng has said in his question, well, he has brought out the most significant point in the interpretation. That is, the interpretation is in effect making an amendment to our local laws. So, SJ, when faced with this issue, interpretation tantamount to amending a piece of local legislation, do you think that it is something something serious? Chair. Who will take the question? SJ. Madam Chair. Allow me to give more details. First of all, Basic Law Article 104. It has always been there since the promulgation of the Basic Law. Now, I think you know that on the 4th of April 1990, the Basic Law was promulgated. On the same day, at the third meeting of a NPC, there was the decision to set up a preparatory committee for the Hong Kong SAR. And in fact, the first term of the electrical members have their qualifications being prescribed. For the requirements, first of all, the members should uphold the Basic Law. Second, they should swear allegiance to the Hong Kong SAR. Well, in fact, both have been included in Article 104 of the Basic Law. At the 5th plenary meeting of the Preparatory Committee on the 5th of October 1996, they endorsed the method to return the provisional legislature, among which Section 3 has dealt with the qualifications of the lawmakers of the provisional legislature, among which the qualifications will include the two elements that I have referred to. First of all, upholding the Hong Kong SAR Basic Law and pledging allegiance to the Hong Kong SAR. And then a year later, on the 23rd of May 1997, at the 9th plenary meeting of the Preparatory Committee, there was the decision to pass the provision concerning the qualification of the first term of the legislature. Again, the requirement was to uphold the Basic Law and to swear allegiance to the SAR. Well, I think he spent 2 minutes to read out those provisions. He should have included it and in his sort of information to be uploaded onto the website. Well, let me ask him and give an answer directly. I think the interpretation is expanding the meaning of Article 104. The SJ was merely repeating Article 104. Taking an oath, pledging allegiance, we don't query that. But then, there is more than what is said in Article 104. What is his view? Allow me to finish my answer, and he will then understand the background to it, and he will understand that the interpretation doesn't change the legal requirement. And I have to tell Mr. Young that when we try to understand Article 104, we cannot ignore the background. Let me continue. In 1997, there was a decision on the qualifications of electrical election candidates, and Sections 19 and Section 20 of the Oaths and Declarations Ordinance have therefore been amended accordingly. And in fact, the Preparatory Committee's work and also amendments to the Oaths and Declarations Ordinance mean that we would like to implement the meaning of Article 104. So the interpretation on this occasion is to restate the spirit, and we do not agree that we are amending the local law. We have put in place our local law so as to implement the requirements under Article 104. Just a moment, please. SJ, please be brief. I've only got 30 seconds left. I just want to raise this point. During the past few weeks, we have heard that you thought that the matter could have been dealt with within the local legal system. Now, I don't know whether you could sleep on the night of the interpretation. I call upon you to resign. Next, Mr. Michael Tian. Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for the administration. Either the CS or the SJ can give an answer, and I will accept it. Well, it is confirmed that the administrator of the oath has a very important duty, and then there shouldn't be arrangements for an oath to be retaken. And Mr. Li Fei also talked about the importance of the administrator of the oath. According to Section 19 of the Oaths and Declaration Ordinance, before the election of the President of the LegCo, the Secretary General will be the goalkeeper. Now, I'm not being personal. I'm not talking about Mr. Chen, but I'm talking about the person holding the post of clerk to the council. Would it be appropriate for him to administer the oath? And in fact, the practice is not the same in the UK.
And the Speaker will also have to take an oath. Now, if I may put this to either officials, if our oath is administered by the President of the Council, would it be better in recognizing the importance of Interpretation 2.4? SJ, Madam Chair, as I said, and the CS also said this, that we are scrutinizing the interpretation of the basic law, so we don't have any conclusion now. Mr. Tin, if indeed it would be considered that it would be better for the President to be there to administer the oath, do we need to amend the election ordinance? The ordinance is very specific or very flexible. It doesn't say that it is for the President to administer the oath. Now, before the President is in place, it would be for the Secretary General who will be administering the oath. So how does this come about? If I may put this to the administration, the Oaths and Declarations Ordinance doesn't specify that we have to take an oath before electing the President, does it? SJ, under the Section 19 of the ODO that deals with the oath taking, 19A refers to the fact that at the first sitting of the session of the Legislative Council, the Secretary General will be responsible, the clerk to the Council will be responsible for administering the oath. Like Mr. Tin said, this section doesn't refer to when the President should be elected. If indeed it is considered best for the President to administer the oath, then we may need to amend the legislation. We have to consider that thoroughly. Mr. Tin, do we need to amend the legislation, though? The legislation doesn't say that. If we elect the President first, and then it would be for him to or her to administer the oath, there is no need to amend the legislation, is there? SJ? Well, whether there is a need for legislative amendments or whether the legislative amendments would make the arrangement clearer, these are two separate issues altogether. I think we have to consider whether administrative arrangement would be enough, or whether we need to amend the legislation to make the arrangement better. So every time we consider administrative arrangement or legislative arrangement, we have to deal with it. Mr. Tin, I am still baffled. The rules of procedure doesn't say they will have to take an oath first before electing the President. The law is also silent on this. So what procedure can we activate to discuss this? What's the government's take on this? SJ, Madam Chair, I said already, and I say again, they were still looking at the implications arising from the interpretation of the basic law and see whether there is any follow-up action to be taken. If at the end of the day we feel that if it has to do with the rules of procedure beyond the law, we'll communicate with LegCo. Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, Madam Chair. Now, if someone is elected as a legislative member, it stands to reason that he or she has to take an oath to bear allegiance to the SAR and to uphold the basic law, and it's a matter of course. Now we do have the content, the format for the oath, but still we have this oath-taking controversy. There are members who, in the process of taking oath, added certain things to the oath, and they consider oath-taking as a platform to advance their views. The oath-taking is very straightforward. You have the oath, the wordings of the oath, and you are taking the oath in a sincere manner. Now, the interpretation refers to sincerity, and how do we judge sincerity? Unless we have a situation like Leung and Yao, it would be difficult to ascertain someone's sincerity. Miss Dr. Lau Xiao Lai is going to put a question. She did her oath in slow motion. We're not sure how sincere she was, but in her blog, she said that in her oath, it was composed of 90 or so isolated words, and they don't add up to anything. I think she has to be responsible for her act. The Pandam members looked at the oath-taking process. I'm sure that they're standing in fear of their own seats. In the community out there, there are many rumors circulating that the government is going to take massive action to strip members of their seats, and they are creating an impression that they are being harassed, and they are trying to defend Leung and Yao. Now, I'd like to clarify this. Other than seeking interpretation of the basic law regarding Leung and Yao's oath-taking, will the administration be filing judicial review regarding the oaths of other members? It would be difficult to stop the civil society taking action and file for judicial review, but will the government be taking this kind of action? CS. In response to Mr. Kwok, like I said in response to Dr. Kwok, Lo Wai Kwok, the administration is at the moment scrutinizing the interpretation regarding all the implications. It would be hard for us to be specific for the time being, but we still reserve the right in answer to members' questions. It doesn't mean to say that we recognize the status of the individual members. Now, Mr. Kwok said clearly that if someone is elected here, it stands to reason that he or she should uphold the basic law and pledge allegiance to the SAR. But that pledge, that upholding of the basic law doesn't start with the office. It starts with the time one is standing for election. That's why in the nomination form there is a need to make the declaration. Mr. Kwok, the CS said in answer to my question that there is no plan to mount large-scale legal challenge. But on behalf of the FTU, I'd like to ask the administration to seriously consider to seek a judicial review on Ms. Lau Xiao Lai's oath, because many people are critical of the attitude with which Ms. Lau took her oath, and I hope the administration will consider this seriously. No response. Dr. Lau Xiao Lai. Madam Chair, I'd like to invite Mr. Kwok Wai Keung to look at a certain article when he's citing it. That article mentions the absurdity of the pro-establishment members instead of the other way around. So I hope that you would cite you will be careful in citing the articles. According to the administration, this interpretation stems from the advocacy for independence. Now, who started the whole thing? Who started the independence issue? Now, C.Y. Leung has always been regarded as the father of Hong Kong independence. He's stirring up trouble in Hong Kong by inciting this issue. Now, there are rumors that the Hong Kong independence advocacy has been going on. There is a need to enact Article 23 legislation. It's going to really great length to do that. Now, there are talks about the validity of certain oaths taken by the Pandam members. Yesterday and today, there are officials. Yesterday it was Paul Chen at the development panel. Today we have the CS who said that when answering questions raised by members, it doesn't mean that they have accepted the validity of their votes, and they reserve the right to pursue the matter. I think this is a show of disrespect for members. We have already taken our oath under the administrator of the oath, and the government is not an administrator of the oath. Whether you accept the oath is not something that you should be concerned about. Now, we don't accept C.Y. Leung's oath. We don't accept the conflict of interest of Paul Chen. I think they're insulting the members who are elected by universal suffrage. I think the government, Paul Chen, and the government officials should apologize for what they said, and they should retract their words, and this is really juvenile. What happened in the recent past shows that the government is cracking down on the pan-democratic members, and they are spending taxpayers' money in seeking judicial review. When we engage in political struggle and when we are exposing the scandals, they are threatening us with legal action. And if we're not with them, we'll be doomed. It shows that C.Y. Leung in this oath-taking saga is seeking to resort to the interpretation of the Basic Law to pave the way for Article 23 legislation. There are some media reports that in private he said that he would like to enact Article 23 legislation within his term. I'd like to put this to you, government officials. Did Mr. C.Y. Leung ever mentioned that he would like to enact Article 23 legislation within this term? Yes, Madam Chair. There are non-establishment members who are making remarks about the chief executive that inaccurate, and they're playing up the chief executive's words. Now, in the past few minutes, we saw what Dr. Lau Siu-lai did. I must say that acting in accordance with the law is our constitutional duty. It is also the chief executive's duty to implement the basic law. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, will you please? Not a point of order. Mr. Leung, please, will you stop? CS, please. I'm merely asking you whether C.Y. Leung has ever said this to you. I'm not playing things up. C.Y. Leung said this in the media, and I hope that the CS will be careful in her words and don't play up the words. CS, I heard the words like respect, accept, uttered by Dr. Lau Siu-lai. I call you Honorable Lau Siu-lai. We reserve the right. I don't really want to get bogged down on the wordings here. I hope that you would respect our turn to speak. We're acting in accordance with the law, and this is the principle we are guided by.
Next, Mr. Ma Fengguang. Thank you, Madam Chair. To me, the interpretation by the NPCSC means that I think the Central People's Government has no choice here because it has to be accountable to the people in the country, and in relation to national security, the government must do this, among other things. And I think the central authorities have been very serious and restraint. When we read the text of the interpretation, I think a lot of it is about common sense. That is whether you need to take it seriously and whether you should take the oath solemnly. I think it is just common sense. And then as to the requirement to uphold the basic law and to pledge allegiance to the Hong Kong SAR, well, since the return of Hong Kong to China on the 1st of July, I think this is but legitimate and right. So there isn't anything new here. The only exception is that we have got a clarification about the rights and the duties of the person administering the oath. There isn't anything new other than that. I think the purpose of the interpretation is to clarify the position so as to clear away the chaos and dispel the misunderstanding. My question for the administration is as follows. The CE has said that he will implement the basic law fully. We've been told that the government will find out how to deal with the matter. So my question is, what follow-up action will be taken and what possibly will be included, the format, and whether you have a timetable, and how are you going to give an account to the public? I'm sure it is in relation to the constitutional affairs and it is in relation to our legal aspect of the government. And do you know whether the judiciary is going to take any follow-up action? One further question is that both the Secretary, the Chief Secretary, as well as Mr. Tam, have said that the performance or the conduct of those who have been elected blatantly and clearly indicate that they have violated the rules and regulations. So how are you going to deal with that? SJ, let me be brief. As I have said, the Hong Kong SARG is still considering whether we need to take any follow-up action in the light of the interpretation. As to the judiciary, I have to emphasize that the executive will strictly follow the arrangement that the judiciary is independent. Therefore, we do not intend to communicate with the judiciary over this matter. As you know that a case is still being dealt with within the judiciary, and this adds to the position that we shouldn't and we won't be communicating with the judiciary over this matter. As to the question of the confirmation form and what it will lead to, as Mr. Ma has said, it is not related to the interpretation of the Basic Law article, but anything that has to do with the legislative election, and just like anything else, whenever a legal issue arises, then we will act in accordance with the laws in Hong Kong. Mr. Ma, I also asked this question. That is, your work in the light of the interpretation. I want to know about the scope of the work and also the timetable. I think there is a sense of urgency here. So please tell us how much time, roughly speaking, you need to finish the examination and the assessment. SJ, as to the scope as well as the timetable, I can appreciate why Mr. Ma is concerned about the two matters, but then the interpretation only took place on Monday. At this stage, of course, we will deal with the matter as soon as possible. It is an important matter, but as of today, I'm sorry, I don't think we can comment and give more details concerning the scope as well as the timetable. Mr. Ma, if you can't give an answer early, then it will create uncertainties. Say, for example, as to whether some lawmakers here are qualified, even among those who are here, will be sort of challenged. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, don't speak from your seat. Otherwise, I will say that this is disorderly conduct and I'll take action. Dr. Elizabeth Quat, some lawmakers during the election, during the past few weeks and at the time of oath-taking have dealt a blow to the society of Hong Kong. Dr. Lau Xiaolai has blamed it on Mr. Leung Chun-ying, the CE. He said that he created the saga of Hong Kong independence, and the purpose is to enact Article 23 of the Basic Law. I think the people in general will say that this is absurd. I want to know whether it was C.Y. Leung who tell you, Ms. Lau, to read out your oath word by word, and was it Leung Chun-ying who asked the two lawmakers to insult the people of Hong Kong, the people of China? If not, then I think Dr. Lau Xiaolai should become a fiction writer. Now, what happened led to the interpretation. I think it is clear. Many people have asked me to urge the administration to examine what took place during the oath-taking process on the 12th of October, so that those who did not sincerely gave their oath, and for those who would like to split the country, who would like to use the resources of LegCo to split the nation, for those who would like to violate one country, two systems, be held accountable, and we should take action early. What worries us is that there is a dragging of feet and not enforcing the law vigorously. So, Secretary, are you going to deal with the matter in a very vigorous way, and are you going to do it ASAP? SJ. Like anything that may be found to have violated the law will be dealt with us in a very strict manner. Dr. Quat. Timetable, because we are afraid that there will be delays. As I have said in relation to Mr. Ma Fung Kok's question, of course we know that it is a very important matter, and we understand that members are concerned about the timing and the timetable. But at the same time, we have to understand that owing to the importance of the matter, we need to be careful, we need to be cautious. Yes, we will do it as soon as possible, but I'm sorry, at this moment, we are not able to come up with a concrete timetable. Madam Chair, I'm reflecting the wish of the general public. There are huge and a lot of implications in relation to the prosecution about those taking part in the Occupy movement, those taking part in the Mong Kok riot, and also those people who have violated the confirmation form. The government has yet to take prosecution action. It is unacceptable to see such delays, and it has only added to the chaos of the society. So let me say this to the government again. I urge the government to take prosecution action as soon as possible. Any reply? A brief one. We fully understand the importance to follow up on such matters as pointed out by Ms. Quat. And we have been keeping up a dialogue, and internally speaking, we have been following our usual practice. We uphold the spirit of the rule of law. We have to be fair and open, and we need to rely on evidence when we deal with the matters. Dr. Quat, I also hope that the SJ can explain the procedures to the community. And if you think that other lawmakers should be subject to a judicial process as well, and if the court has disqualified a person, what will be the next step? Please tell us. SJ. Well, the dispute is being handled in the court. The judicial action has started. In future, the court will make a decision as to what we will do, first of all, it depends on the actual judgment by the court. Second, since the case hasn't been concluded, the judicial process hasn't ended, so it is not right for us to say in public as to what possibilities may take place. Mr. Ted Hui. Thank you, Chair. CS and SJ, lawmakers take oaths in accordance with a piece of local legislation, that is the Oaths and Declarations Ordinance. You may think that we are insincere, we are not solemn, we are not serious. Why can't you just work through the amendment of a local law so as to achieve your purpose of restraining the lawmakers? Why are you supporting the interpretation by the NPCSC so as to restrict your power and your right to amend local law, and you're restricting the local lawmakers, and you're also restricting the judicial review process? So the blow dealt as a result. CS and SJ, you are also a legal professional. Do you still believe that there is Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong? In fact, the NPCSC's interpretation doesn't observe the rule of law. It is ruled by men. They are sort of overpowering us. So why don't you just let us amend our own domestic legislation? Who will take an answer? Ted Hui has asked me to answer, so I'll try to give an answer as a layman. For this matter, we need to accurately and fully implement the basic law. Now, Article 104 is the subject matter of the interpretation by the NPCSC. By having an accurate understanding of the basic law, then we can practice the national policy of Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong in a high degree of autonomy. SJ, as the CS has said, it involves Article 104 of the Basic Law. Just now, the member talked about local legislation, and the purpose of the local legislation is to implement the article in the Basic Law. I think you have also observed that both before and after interpretation, we have made it clear that it is not the Hong Kong SARG making a proposal to the NPCSC to interpret the Basic Law. On the 3rd of November, on the same day that the relevant case commenced in the court, the SC representing the Hong Kong SARG has read out a declaration, has read out a statement. And we have made it clear that we believe that the case could have been dealt with within the local courts. We have made it clear that the government did not ask for an interpretation by the NPCSC. And as I have said on Monday, and let me take this opportunity to repeat what I've said, we have full confidence in the judiciary and the judicial officers of the judiciary in Hong Kong that they will continue to deal with their duties in a professional manner. Lastly, a question for SJ. If you want to restrict lawmakers, and if you want lawmakers to be solemn in taking their oath, would you agree with me that an amendment to the Oaths and Declarations Ordinance will have the same effect as the interpretation by the NPCSC? SJ, I think his question has this sort of preamble saying that there is a need to amend the Oaths and Declarations Ordinance. We haven't come to a conclusion as to whether there is a need to amend that piece of legislation because the interpretation has made it clear. Now, we have got case law as well. In year 2004, there was the judgment by Mr. Justice Hartman, and soon we are going to get the judgment about the judicial review. So as to whether there is a need to amend the Oaths and Declarations Ordinance, we haven't decided yet. SJ, please be brief. Can I finish? For Mr. Hui's question, he has a prerequisite in his question, that is a need to amend local law. You haven't got a position, but when there is a need to, when there's interpretation, you will always support it. Would it be 10, 3, or 4? You use the word support. Mr. Hoy, your question. Sorry, I didn't get it. Finally, which lawmakers will be disqualified who have a say? You just don't like their face, or does it mean that it is ruled by men?
Well, it's not a question of rule of man. It is for the court to decide who should be disqualified. In answer to Mr. Yip's question, I made it very clear, and I hope that there would not be any misconception of this kind anymore. Mr. Jeremy Tam, Madam Chair, this is a question for the SJ, and I hope that you would answer more succinctly. Don't take us back to the historical facts. Now, when did you become aware of this interpretation exercise? When were you notified? SJ, Madam Chair, the Hong Kong SL government has been in communication with the mainland authorities over this issue. It's not appropriate for us to disclose the details of the communication. Mr. Tam, you come here and you're not talking about this. I'm asking you about the exact date. The members of the public would like to know about this. You said before that this whole issue could be resolved in the Hong Kong court. So I'm trying to find out what have you done to uphold or to defend Hong Kong's rule of law. When did you become aware, or when were you notified of the interpretation exercise date? SJ? Very simply, I said openly before that this issue could be resolved by the Hong Kong court system, and I hold this stance, and we have reflected our views, and I can tell you that we have been reflecting our views to the central authorities. Mr. Tam, well, I think we have to be predicated on facts. You told us that you have been defending or safeguarding the rule of law, and this whole issue could be dealt with in Hong Kong's judiciary. When did you become aware of the interpretation exercise? If you became aware of that 2 days prior to the interpretation, then you still have integrity. But if, on the other hand, couple of days after the oath taking, you were aware of the interpretation exercise, then you're not telling the truth. I think you have to clear your name, whether you are telling the truth or whether you are telling lies. SJ, Mr. Tam, I hope that you would notice that other than saying that the issue could be dealt with in the judiciary system in Hong Kong, I said that on the 3rd of November, after the case has started, the SC representing the government did read out a statement that the interpretation was not sought by the Hong Kong SL government, and we believe that the issue could be resolved in the Hong Kong court. SJ, make it brief, please. Mr. Tam, would you let the Secretary say first? Well, I think if Mr. Tam would allow the official to respond, then you would understand. Well, if you allow me 10 minutes, that would be fine, but I've got 1 minute or so left. SJ, what I'm trying to say is that what we said to the court, I'm sure everyone will understand. Well, we understand. SJ, understood. Understood. May I? May I? Madam Chair. If I may, Madam Chair. It's not your time, SJ. But if you want to make it quick, please let the Secretary. During the court hearing, we said this, make this statement. This cannot be a lie. It cannot be an untruth. On the 3rd of November, you said that the government did not seek interpretation of the Basic Law. When you said this on the 3rd of November, did you know that there was an interpretation exercise that was going to happen? SJ. As we said in the statement, we were aware of this possibility, and we were aware of the media reports. And it was in the evening of November 3rd that we received documents from the central authorities, and on the 4th of November, we wrote to the judge and make him aware. So it was on the 3rd of November, the evening, that you received the documents. So you became aware of that on November 3rd evening. SJ, we received the confirmation on the 3rd of November. Before that, we were aware of this possibility. Mr. Tam, SJ, if you are minded to defend Hong Kong's rule of law, you should step down. Mr. Nathan Law, well, I hope that you would make it clear. Dr. Lau Siu-lai asked a relevant question to which I hope you would reply in brief. There are media reports that C.Y. Leung said within the government that he would like to enact Article 23 legislation within this term. I hope that the officials can tell us categorically whether he did say this within the government. CS? Well, Madam Chair, we won't comment on the unfounded reports in the media. Mr. Law, so it is clear that the government officials are not prepared to respond to that. We talk about Article 23 because the people's right to stand is being deprived of, and people are concerned about the freedom of expression and freedom of thought might be under threat in the context of Article 23 legislation. As an elected member with tens of thousands of votes, you are saying that in responding to our questions, it doesn't mean to say that you would accept our status. I think it would be hard for me to think of anything polite to say that if we hear all these doubts expressed by government officials, then that would amount to a farce. The whole world is reporting on this particular issue. I think this is really a gigantic farce in Hong Kong. You are casting doubt on our status, on our eligibility, and this is a matter of grave significance. In this House Committee meeting, you didn't respond to our question regarding what you're going to do next. There are media reports that said that 10 members have doubtful eligibility. You're not responding to this here in this committee meeting. Why is it that the government is not giving us a message, a clear message, that of the 17 members here, how many of us can continue sitting here and representing the voices of the people? And how can the Pan-Dam members be confident enough to carry on with their council work? In this interpretation exercise, I think it is very, very ridiculous. It is absurd. We took it for granted certain things, and these are being distorted, and the Pan-Dam members are going to be affected. Mr. Chek Siu Tong, Mr. Andrew Leung took the decisions. I mean, Mr. Kenneth Chen took the decisions. Doesn't mean that they should step down to take responsibility for what they did. I think the officials have to respond clearly to us. Mr. Kenneth Chen, Mr. Andrew Leung declare certain oaths are invalid. Should they be held responsible in this regard? CS? We are acting in accordance with the law here in our side. The President has taken certain decisions, and members are aware that on the 18th of October we have sought judicial review, and It is the case is sub judice, and I think we have to be patient in waiting for the ruling of the court. Now, Mr. Law made the remarks, and I must say that for certain members, whether they have taken their oath properly, and there are doubts cast on this. Now, here in this council, there are members who are referring to these voices in the community that certain members have not taken their oath lawfully. The government is looking at Mr. Law, please. Now, for these members, whether there are any implications arising from the interpretation, we still reserve the right for the time being. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, I think I have to issue a warning. You have been speaking out of turn in your seat. Please stop. Mr. Law, you have to stop. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, you have to stop. Mr. Law, I think we have to, we are entitled to our freedom of speech without any fear. If members are on the tenterhooks every day, are you depriving members of their right? How can we function properly? Right, next, Mr. Junis Ho. Good morning, CS, SJ. I think we have to deal with Nathan Law and Leung Kwok-hong. I think we have to deal with them straight away without any delay. CS or SJ, you don't have to resign. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, you have repeatedly spoken out of turn. This is the final warning, or else I would enforce the rules of procedure. Mr. Ho, please. Well, it's okay. I'll take it, Madam Chair. I think you ought to take action to stop them doing this. Dr. Fernando Zhang, well, under the rules of procedure, members cannot offend other members. I heard Mr. Ho say that the government has to deal with certain members. Is it offending other members? Well, you are interfering with my chance to speak. I hope that you will stop. We're dealing with a point of order. You have to stop, Mr. Ho. You're not supposed to ask me to stop. Well, have you an intention to offend other members? No, I'm being factual. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, you have to stop. You have flouted the rules of procedure many, many times. Well, Julius Ho is threatening the government. Ms. Tanya Chan, Madam Chair, beg your pardon. I think it's for you to give a ruling. I don't think you should be asking whether Julius Ho has offended other members. It's for you to judge. Well, will you clarify? Have you offended other members? No. Now, let me exercise my judgment. He's merely using the word deal with. This is a neutral word. Mr. Ho, on this particular issue, I hope that the SJ will expedite the work. And Occupy movement has been over for 2 years, and there is such a backlog of cases. The three key members, there is still no action is being taken. I hope that SJ, I urge Mr. SJ to set up a task force to get on with the work according to a specified timetable without any delay. Second, we understand that we should not divert the attention. Oath taking is a solemn task that has to be undertaken. It is the fundamental condition for us to uphold the basic law and to pledge allegiance to the SAR. There are people who are not doing this properly. I feel nauseated when I saw the people clad in black in taking to the street. That the NPCSC has the power to interpret the basic law, and they're turning out and talk about the rule of law. I urge the administration to take resolute action regarding point number 3 of the interpretation. It cannot be indecisive. We heard a lot about all these remarks during the Occupy movement and the New Year riot, this advocacy for independence. The government has to be resolute, because the longer we delay, the worse it will become.
Who will give a reply? SJ. I understand Dr. Ho's viewpoint. As I have said, whenever we deal with a matter that involves the law, we have to do it within the relevant law, and we have to talk about evidence we have. Exactly because of the importance of the matter, we have to be careful, and we have to uphold the spirit of respecting the rule of law. Dr. Ho, I have no other questions. Next, Mr. Ho Kai-ming. Thank you, Chair. Just now, many colleagues have said that they represent the voice of tens of thousands of people, and so they can ignore the rules governing the oath-taking. I think this is being frivolous. Now, many people will only have one chance to give an oath, that is at the marriage ceremony. Or some lawmakers would only be the administrator of oath when they preside over a marriage ceremony. I don't think anybody would allow for anybody acting so immaturely. We want people who are mature to be our lawmakers. We don't want immature, childish people becoming lawmakers, yelling and doing things like that. I think please come up with an explainer so that the general public would understand what is meant by the interpretation. In some commentaries, it appears to me that many people have been exaggerating the significance of the interpretation. In fact, Article 104 covers more than just LegCo members. ExCo members and the judicial officers will also be covered. I respect them. I don't think they will involve themselves in such frivolous matters. So please give us the guidelines. Do you think it is better to come up with more detailed guidelines so that this can be avoided and no one would make use of the opportunity of oath-taking to engage in conduct which violates the content of the oath? SJ. I thank the member for his question. Of course, the SARG has the duty to implement the basic law as well as other laws in Hong Kong. For the taking of the oath, it depends on the circumstances. In this case, it is about the oath taking by LegCo members. It is the Secretariat of the LegCo that was responsible for the preparation of the ceremony. Well, prior to the 12th of October, if I remember correctly, altogether 3 documents have been issued by the LegCo Secretariat explaining about matters related to the making of oath. As to whether there should be an explainer or whether the government should be responsible for coming up with that, I think something for us to consider. Otherwise, it will give people the impression that the government, the executive, is interfering with the work of other branches. Mr. Ho. Yes, it covers lawmakers, principal officials, and ExCo members. I think you need to explain the content of the interpretation. And then Article 104 isn't just about the internal affairs of the Council. It is about public officers. Points taken, we'll consider. Last, Mr. Felix Chung. Madam Chair, in the light of the interpretation, we come to understand that lawmakers-elect can only take their oath once. Now the President has allowed Mr. Leung and Ms. Yao to retake their oath. Now, the interpretation says that the oath can only be taken once. Now, for the President of the LegCo to withdraw his decision, then there's no need for the executive to come up with a judicial review. That's how I understand it. Now, the government is having a judicial review of the decision of the president because the president has allowed the Jude a second chance to take the oath. Now that there is the interpretation, is the government going to withdraw the judicial review? Who's going to answer? SJ. First of all, I haven't received any news about what the president will do. Second, for this subject matter, it is the subject matter of a judicial action, so it is not right for me to comment further. Mr. Chung, of course I know the president hasn't done anything about that. Now, the NPCSC has given an interpretation saying that the president's ruling is wrong. The judicial review came about because of the president's decision. If the president withdraws his decision, does it mean that there's no need to have the judicial review by the administration? SJ, as I have said, the matter is now in the courts. It is in the midst of a judicial process. Therefore, it is not right for me to give further comments within this meeting. Moreover, it is true, it is a fact that the president hasn't withdrawn his decision, so it is only a hypothetical question. Any further questions from Mr. Chung? Time is up for us to wind up the meeting. I would like to thank the SJ, the CS, and the SCA. 60 members were able to ask questions at this HC meeting. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.